On a quiet October night, in a small barangay in Manila, a 23-year-old software engineer named Jose sat in front of a cracked computer screen and watched a Korean gamer laugh at his country. 30 minutes later, 7 million people were watching Jose's face. By sunrise, a record had broken that no one saw coming. But before we get to that night, we have to go back to the beginning, to a boy who had nothing but a dream and a mother who sold fish to keep that dream alive. It started in the summer of 2021, when the whole world was still learning how to breathe again. Jose lived in a small concrete house in Tondo, Manila, where the streets smelled of fried fish and diesel, and children played basketball with a ball made of bundle rags. His mother, Aling Rosa, woke up at 3 every morning to go to the wet market, her feet swollen from walking on wet cement, her hands cracked from handling ice and fish scales. Jose's father had left when he was 7, and the only thing he left behind was an old desktop computer with a missing key on the keyboard. That computer became Jose's whole world. Jose taught himself to code by watching YouTube videos on a data connection, so slow that a 5-minute tutorial took an hour to load. He would sit on a wooden stool, his back aching, his eyes burning, copying lines of code onto a notebook first because the computer would crash if he opened too many tabs. His neighbor, a tall and quiet guy named Marco, worked as a delivery driver and sometimes brought Jose spare parts from old computers he found in the trash. Marco was 3 years older, with a gentle face and a laugh that sounded like a motorcycle engine. He believed in Jose when no one else did. Every night, Marco would knock on Jose's door with a plastic bag of leftover rice and a question. "What are we building today?" They called their project Sybil, which meant to sprout in Tagalog. It was supposed to be a simple platform where local fishermen could sell their catch directly to restaurants, cutting out the middlemen who cheated them every day. Jose worked on the code while Marco handled the logistics, riding his motorcycle to different barangays, talking to old fishermen with sunburned faces and hands that smelled like the sea. For 6 months, they built Sybil with no money, no investors, and no recognition. Jose's mother would come home at night, count her earnings on the table, sometimes 200 pesos, sometimes less, and hand half of it to Jose for internet load. She never complained. She would just smile with her missing tooth and say, "Make us proud, Anak." Then in August 2021, a small tech blog in Singapore wrote about Sybil. It wasn't a feature article, just a paragraph in a roundup of Southeast Asian startups. But someone saw it. Someone with a blue checkmark on Twitter, and a gaming channel with 2 million subscribers. His name was Kim, a 25-year-old streamer from Seoul known for his aggressive commentary and his habit of mocking non-Korean developers. Kim retweeted the blog post with a laughing emoji and wrote, "Filipino AI software engineer? More like Filipino copy-paste engineer. They can't even build a toaster app without bugs." Jose saw the tweet at 2 in the morning while waiting for his code to compile. He stared at the screen for a long time. His hands didn't shake. His eyes didn't water. He just felt something cold settle in his chest. Marco was asleep on the floor beside him, using a folded jacket as a pillow. Jose didn't wake him. Instead, he opened a new text file and started writing. He wrote for 3 hours straight, line by line, function by function. He wasn't writing a response. He was writing an AI model that could detect the freshness of fish from a single photograph. It was something he'd been thinking about for months, something that could help his mother and all the other vendors at the market who got cheated every day because they couldn't prove their fish was fresh. But now he had a deadline. He was going to finish it in 1 week. And he was going to show Kim that a Filipino engineer from Tondo could build something that a Seoul gamer could never understand. The next morning, Jose told Marco his plan. Marco listened quietly, then stood up and said, "I'll get us more spare parts." He rode his motorcycle to a computer shop in Quezon City that was closing down and begged the owner for discarded RAM sticks and an old graphics card. The owner, a Chinese-Filipino man named Mr. Tan, recognized the fire in Marco's eyes and gave him the parts for free. That night, Jose upgraded his computer with trembling hands. The graphics card was 3 generations old, but it was enough. He started training his AI model. On a dataset of fish images he scraped from local market photos. The computer sounded like a lawnmower when it ran, but it ran. Kim didn't stop. Every day he posted something new. A clip from his stream where he imitated a Filipino accent while pretending to code. A tweet that said, "Philippines as AI engineers? I thought they only had nannies and seamen." His followers, hundreds of thousands of them, joined in. They flooded Jose's Twitter mentions with insults, laughing emojis, and memes of monkeys typing on keyboards. Jose's hands trembled every time he opened his phone. He stopped eating. He stopped sleeping. He just stared at the screen, watching the numbers, watching the hate pile up like garbage on Manila Street. His mother noticed. She put a hand on his shoulder one evening and said, "Jose, why are you letting a stranger live inside your head for free?" He didn't answer. He couldn't, because Kim wasn't just a stranger. Kim was every person who ever looked at Jose and saw nothing. On the 5th day, the computer crashed. Jose lost 12 hours of training data. He sat on the floor with his head in his hands, and for the first time in years, he cried. Marco found him there, silent tears running down his cheeks, his shoulders shaking. Marco didn't say anything. He just sat beside him, put an arm around him, and stayed there until the sun came up. Then he said, "We start again." That's what we do. They started again. Jose rewrote the data pipeline from scratch, this time adding checkpoints every hour. Marco went to market and took 500 photos of fish on ice, fish in plastic basins, fish under red bulbs, fish with cloudy eyes and bright eyes, fish that were fresh and fish that were 3 days old. He came back with sunburn on his neck and a smile on his face. By the 7th day, the AI model was ready. Jose tested it with a photo of a bangus his mother had bought that morning. The model returned a 94% freshness score. He tested it with a photo of a tilapia that had been sitting in their refrigerator for 2 days. The model returned a 31% freshness score. It worked. It actually worked. Jose leaned back in his chair and let out a breath he didn't know he had been holding for a week. Marco was standing behind him, watching the screen. "Now what?" Marco asked. Jose opened Twitter. Kim had just posted another video mocking Filipino developers, this time with a caption that said, "Maybe they should stick to singing karaoke." Jose clicked reply. He typed, "I built an AI that can detect fish freshness from a photo. I did it in 1 week. On a computer made of trash. From Tondo. Let's see what you can build when your parents don't buy you everything." Then he attached a demo video of the AI model in action. He pressed send. For the first hour, nothing happened. Then a retweet. Then 10. Then 100. Then 1,000. By midnight, the video had 500,000 views. People were sharing it everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Reddit. A Filipino tech influencer with 1 million followers picked it up. Then a news site in Cebu. Then a major outlet in Manila. Jose's phone started vibrating nonstop. He turned it off and went to sleep on the floor next to Marco, who was already snoring. When he woke up, the video had 3 million views, and Kim had deleted his tweet. But Jose wasn't done. He spent the next day improving the model, adding support for 10 different fish species commonly sold in Philippine markets. He made the interface simpler, with big buttons and Tagalog labels, so that vendors with poor eyesight or low literacy could use it. He added a voice feature that read the freshness score aloud. He tested it with his mother, who pointed at the screen and said, "This is good, Anik. This is very good." She had tears in her eyes. Jose pretended not to notice. Then Kim came back. He posted a new video. But this time he wasn't laughing. He was serious. He said that Jose's AI was probably fake, that it was probably just a simple classifier trained on a tiny dataset, that anyone with a basic understanding of Python could do it in an afternoon. He challenged Jose to a live demonstration, streamed on both their channels, with a panel of 3 neutral judges from Singapore, Japan, and the United States. If Jose won, Kim would donate $10,000 to a Filipino charity of Jose's choice. If Kim won, Jose had to delete his project and publicly apologize for misleading the tech community. Jose read the terms 3 times. Then he looked at Marco. Marco shrugged and said, "You already know what I think." Jose typed his answer. "See you on Saturday." The next 3 days were a blur of code, coffee, and fear. Jose didn't sleep more than 4 hours total. He refactored the entire model, added a new data augmentation layer, and built a fallback system that could run even without an internet connection. Marco handled everything else: food, water, messages from reporters, and a stream of neighbors who kept knocking on the door to offer prayers and snacks. A woman from 2 streets away brought a whole tray of lumpia. An old man with a cane brought a Bible and asked if he could pray over the computer. Jose let him. The old man prayed for 10 minutes in a mix of Tagalog and Latin, his voice steady and warm. When he finished, Jose felt lighter, not because of the prayer, but because of the company. Saturday came faster than Jose expected. The live stream was scheduled for 8 p.m. Manila time, which was 9 a.m. in Seoul. Jose set up his computer in the main room of their house, with his mother's fish scale stained table as his desk. Marco borrowed a ring light from a cousin who did makeup videos. They hung a white bedsheet on the wall to hide the cracks in the concrete. Jose wore his best shirt, a blue polo that his mother had bought from a ukay-ukay for 50 pesos. He combed his hair with water because he didn't have gel. At 7:30, he looked at himself in a small cracked mirror and whispered, "You belong here." The stream began. Jose's heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. Kim appeared on the split screen, sitting in his expensive gaming chair, wearing a black hoodie and a smug smile. The 3 judges introduced themselves: a woman from Singapore who specialized in computer vision, a man from Tokyo who ran an AI ethics lab, and a professor from California who had written a textbook on neural networks. The rules were simple. They would give Jose and Kim the same set of 50 fish photos, half fresh and half spoiled. Each had to run the photos through their own AI model and report the freshness scores. Accuracy would be measured against ground truth data provided by a seafood certification lab in Thailand. Kim went first. His model was fast, returning results for all 50 photos in under 30 seconds. The judges reviewed the outputs. Accuracy, 87%, a respectable score. Kim leaned back in his chair and smiled. "Not bad for a copy-paste engineer," he said in English, then laughed in Korean. Jose didn't react. He took a deep breath, opened his terminal, and ran his script. His computer whirred and groaned. The old graphics card sounded like it was about to take off. 45 seconds passed. 50 seconds. A minute. The chat exploded with comments. People were calling Jose's model slow, calling the computer potato, calling him a fraud. Jose kept his eyes on the screen. At 1 minute and 12 seconds, his script finished. The judges reviewed Jose's outputs. The Singaporean woman went first. "Accuracy," she said, pausing for effect, 96%. The chat went silent for a full 3 seconds. Then it exploded again, but this time with shock. Kim's smile disappeared. He leaned forward, squinting at his screen. "That's impossible," he said. He must have seen the dataset before. The Japanese judge shook his head. The test images were generated by an independent lab less than 12 hours ago. No one had access. The American professor added, "Additionally, Jose's model correctly identified subtle indicators of spoilage that even human experts sometimes miss, such as corneal opacity changes and gill color degradation patterns. This is genuinely impressive work, especially given the hardware constraints." Jose didn't say anything. He just sat there, his hands resting on his knees, his chest rising and falling slowly. Marco, who was standing just outside the camera frame, put a hand on Jose's shoulder and squeezed. Jose's mother was in the kitchen, listening through the open door. She didn't understand the technical details, but she understood the silence, and then she heard it. The sound of a grown man crying on the other side of the world. Kim had muted his microphone, but the cameras caught everything. His face crumpled. He pulled his hoodie over his head and sat there, shaking. The chat didn't know what to do. Some people laughed. Some people sent heart emojis. Most just watched in stunned silence. Kim unmuted his microphone after almost a minute. His voice was cracked and quiet. "I'm sorry," he said, not in Korean, in English, so everyone could understand. "I'm sorry for what I said about your country, about your people. I was wrong. You built something amazing. I built nothing but hate." He looked directly into the camera, his eyes red and swollen. "You won. I'll send the money tomorrow, and I'll make a public apology video that stays up forever." Then he ended the call. The stream continued for another 20 minutes, with the judges asking Jose questions about his methodology, his dataset, his hardware. He answered each one calmly, clearly, without arrogance. When the stream ended, Jose turned off the computer, walked to the kitchen, and hugged his mother. She smelled like fish and laundry soap and home. He cried into her shoulder for a long time. That night, after the stream ended and the last notifications faded from Jose's phone, something strange happened. Kim's apology video went live at 3 a.m. Seoul time. But instead of the usual polished production with jump cuts and background music, it was just Kim sitting on his bedroom floor, his back against his bed frame, no makeup on his face, his silver hair messy and unstyled. He spoke for 47 minutes without a script. He talked about his father who had lost his job during the Asian financial crisis and never recovered. He talked about how he started streaming because he was lonely, how the hate comments made him feel powerful for the first time in his life. He talked about how he had never built anything real, only destroyed things other people built. Then he talked about Jose. He called him a genius. He called him brave. He said, "I made fun of a man who was helping fishermen feed their families, and I was laughing about it while drinking a $60 bottle of soju." The video ended with Kim bowing to the camera, his forehead touching the carpet, holding that position for 30 full seconds. The video got 15 million views in 12 hours. But that wasn't the record that broke. The record that broke happened 3,000 kilometers away, in a small public market in Navotas, where a 56-year-old fish vendor named Lola Faye used Jose's AI for the first time. Lola Faye had been selling fish for 31 years. She had no smartphone, no computer, no internet. Her daughter, a nursing student who lived in the same small apartment, downloaded Jose's app onto an old tablet that a neighbor had thrown away. The tablet had a cracked screen and a battery that only lasted 2 hours, but it worked. Lola Faye pointed the tablet's camera at a tray of galunggong. The app spoke in Tagalog. Freshness score 89%. Good for today. Lola Faye laughed. Then she cried. Then she showed every vendor in the market. Within an hour, 43 vendors had asked her daughter to install the app on their phones. Within a week, the app had been downloaded 200,000 times across the Philippines. Not because of the viral video, not because of the drama with Kim, but because it worked. Because it helped people who had been cheated their whole lives finally have proof. Jose didn't know any of this at first. He had turned off his phone and slept for 18 hours straight. When he woke up, Marco was sitting on the floor with a laptop open, his eyes wide. "You need to see this," Marco said. Jose sat up slowly, his body aching from days of tension. Marco turned the laptop toward him. The screen showed a donation page for Sybil. The amount raised was not in pesos. It was in dollars, $53,000, from people all over the world, from Korean fans who had turned against Kim, from Filipino workers in Dubai and Hong Kong and Saudi Arabia, from a grandmother in Canada who wrote in the donation message, "My father was a fisherman in Pangasinan. Thank you for honoring him." Jose stared at the number. He didn't speak. He just reached out and touched the screen, as if the numbers might disappear if he didn't hold them down. But the record wasn't about money. The record was about something else entirely. 3 days after the stream, a tech publication in London ran a story titled "The Most Downloaded AI Model in History Came from a Trash Computer in Manila." The article revealed that Jose's fish freshness model had been downloaded more than any other single-purpose AI model in the world, beating a famous plant disease detection model from India and a skin cancer detection model from Germany. The numbers were staggering. In 6 days, the model had been downloaded 4.7 million times. Not just in the Philippines, but in Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Brazil, Nigeria, and Kenya. Farmers were using it to check the freshness of vegetables. Meat vendors were adapting it for chicken and pork. A group of students in Ghana had retrained the model to detect spoilage in cassava. Jose had released a model as open source, with no restrictions, no license fees, no paywalls. Anyone could use it, modify it, improve it, and they did. Kim kept his promise. He donated $10,000 to a fishermen's cooperative in Zambales, then another $10,000 from his own pocket. He posted a second apology video, this time in Korean with English subtitles, where he broke down his own toxic behavior and encouraged other streamers to stop using nationalism as content. He lost 200,000 subscribers in 1 week, but he gained something else. He gained a friendship that no one expected. Kim sent Jose a direct message on Twitter. "I know you have no reason to talk to me, but I want to learn. Can we call?" Jose stared at the message for 10 minutes. Marco was beside him, reading over his shoulder. "Your choice," Marco said. Jose typed back, "Tomorrow, 8 p.m. Manila time. I'll teach you about fish. You teach me about Korean barbecue." Kim replied with a single laughing emoji and then a heart. The internet lost its mind. Clips of their first video call went viral. Two young men, one from Seoul and one from Manila, laughing together about how Kim's AI model had confused a rotten squid for a fresh shrimp. But not everyone was happy. A group of Korean nationalist streamers, furious that Kim had betrayed his own people, started a coordinated attack on Jose's GitHub repository. They flooded the code with fake bug reports, spam issues, and death threats. One of them doxed Jose's address, posting his barangay and street name on a forum with 80,000 members. Within hours, strangers started showing up outside Jose's house. Not haters, supporters. Neighbors formed a human chain around the house. Old women with brooms, tricycle drivers with metal pipes, teenagers with baseball bats. A barangay captain named Mang Danny stood at the front with a megaphone and said, "You want to hurt our boy? You have to go through all of us first." Jose watched from his window, his face pressed against the glass, his heart full and breaking at the same time. The Philippine National Police assigned 2 officers to guard Jose's house for a week. The Cybercrime Division traced the doxers and made 3 arrests. But the damage was done. Jose couldn't sleep. Every noise outside made him flinch. He started keeping a knife under his pillow, something he had never done before. Marco slept on the floor beside him every night, his motorcycle helmet within reach. Jose's mother stopped going to market. She stayed home, watching the door, praying the rosary over and over until her fingers bled from the friction of the beads. The boy who had built a world-changing AI from a trash computer was now afraid to walk to the corner store. The irony was not lost on him. He had faced down 1 million hate comments and a Korean streamer with a 2 million-strong army, but few anonymous threats in the dark had broken something inside him. He stopped eating again. He stopped coding. He just sat on the floor, staring at the wall, the knife under his pillow like a secret he couldn't share. Marco couldn't watch it anymore. One night, he sat down in front of Jose and said, "You built something that helped millions of people. You proved everyone wrong. You won. Why are you still fighting?" Jose looked at him with hollow eyes. "Because I don't know how to stop," he said. "The hate is inside me now. Even when no one is saying anything, I hear it. I hear Kim. I hear all of them. I can't turn it off." Marco nodded slowly. He understood. He had grown up with the same voices, the same whispers that told him he wasn't enough because his skin was too dark, his English was too broken, his dreams were too big for a boy from Tondo. Marco reached out and took Jose's hand. "Then we learn to live with it," he said. Together, they sat like that for a long time. 2 young men holding hands in the dark, the knife forgotten under the pillow, the threats outside fading into the noise of the city. The next morning, Jose made a decision. He posted a video of his own. Not a response to the haters, not a technical tutorial, just a simple message. He sat in front of his cracked computer screen, wearing the same blue polo shirt, his hair uncombed, dark circles under his eyes. He spoke in Tagalog, with English subtitles. He said, "I am tired. I am scared. I don't know if I can keep doing this. But I know one thing. The fish vendors in the market are not scared. They wake up at 3 in the morning every day. They stand in the heat and the rain. They sell fish so their children can eat. They don't have time to be afraid. So I will try to be like them. I will wake up. I will go to work. And every time the hate comes back, I will remember Lola Faye's face when she saw the app work for the first time. That is enough. That has to be enough." The video got 20 million views in 2 days. Not because of drama, not because of controversy, but because of honesty. Because a young man from Tondo had shown the world what it looked like to be broken and still stand up. Kim saw the video. He sent Jose a long message. But this time it wasn't about apologies or donations. It was about something simpler. He said, I have panic attacks too. I have them before every stream. I have them in the middle of the night. I used to drink to make them stop. Now I call my mother. Do you call your mother? Jose wrote back, yes, every day. Kim replied, good, keep doing that. They started calling each other regularly. Not about code, not about the controversy, just about life. Kim talked about his girlfriend, who wanted him to quit streaming. Jose talked about Marco, who wanted him to eat more vegetables. They laughed at how ridiculous their lives had become. Two young men, from opposite sides of a hate storm, now talking about rice cookers and bad haircuts. The internet didn't know how to process it. Some people called it redemption. Some people called it a publicity stunt. Most people just called it beautiful and moved on with their lives. But the record that broke had nothing to do with Kim or the drama or the apologies. It had to do with Lola Faye. 2 weeks after Jose's video, a journalist from the Associated Press went to Navota's market to interview Lola Faye about the app. Lola Faye showed the journalist how she used a tablet, how the app spoke in Tagalog, how she had not been cheated even once since she started using it. Then the journalist asked her a question. What would you say to the people who threatened Jose? Lola Faye looked at the journalist with the kind of face that had seen war, poverty, and the death of 2 children. She said, I would tell them that they are small, very small, smaller than the smallest fish in my tray, because only small people try to break big hearts. The journalist wrote down her words. The article went viral, but that wasn't the record. The record was what happened next. A tech company in Silicon Valley offered Jose $2 million for exclusive rights to his AI model. He said no. A venture capital firm in Singapore offered him $1 million to move to Singapore and build a commercial version. He said no. A government agency in the Philippines offered him a position as a consultant with a salary that would have let him buy a house for his mother. He said no to that too. Instead, he did something that broke every record anyone had ever seen in open source history. He posted a message on GitHub that said, This model belongs to the fishermen. It always will. I am not selling it. I am not licensing it. I am giving it away forever. Anyone who tries to patent it or lock it behind a paywall will have an answer to every vendor in every market in the Philippines. And trust me, they are not afraid of lawyers. The message was shared 3 million times in 24 hours. It became the most retweeted tech-related post in Twitter history, breaking a record previously held by Elon Musk. But Jose didn't care about the record. He cared about what happened the next morning. His mother went back to the market, not to sell fish, but to teach. She stood in the middle of Navota's market with the crack tablet and showed every vendor how to use the app. She didn't know anything about AI or neural networks or Python, but she knew about fish, and she knew about dignity. She told the vendors, My son built this for you, not for fame, not for money, for you, so use it. And when someone tells you that Filipinos are not smart enough, you show them this tablet. You show them your fresh fish, and you laugh. The vendors cheered. Someone recorded a video. The video got 10 million views. Jose watched it from his room, tears streaming down his face, Marco beside him with a bowl of rice and fish. They ate in silence, watching Lola Faye and Jose's mother laugh together on the screen. 2 old women who had spent their lives carrying ice and fish scales and now carried hope instead. The morning after the market video went viral, Jose woke up to the sound of rain hitting the corrugated roof. It was a kind of rain that Manila knew well, loud and impatient, turning the dirt streets into rivers of brown water. Marco was already awake, standing by the window with a cup of instant coffee, watching the flood rise. The creek is swelling, Marco said quietly. We might need to move the computer. Jose nodded and got up. His body still ached from weeks of tension, but something had shifted inside him. The knife was no longer under his pillow. He had given it to his mother the night before, pressing it into her hands without a word. She had looked at him, then at the knife, then back at him. Then she had put it in the kitchen drawer next to the can opener, where it belonged. Jose pulled on his rubber sandals and helped Marco lift the desktop computer onto a stack of concrete blocks. They worked in silence, the way men do when words are too heavy. The rain got louder. By noon, the flood had reached their knees. The entire barangay was underwater. Neighbors waded to the streets, carrying children and plastic bags of belongings. A tricycle floated past, its driver sitting on top like a captain on a sinking ship. Jose's mother stood at the door, watching the water rise with a face that had seen this 100 times before. "We should go to the evacuation center," she said. Jose shook his head. "The computer," he said. "I can't leave it." Marco put a hand on his shoulder. "Then we carry it." They wrapped the computer in 3 plastic garbage bags and tied them with rope. Jose carried the monitor, Marco carried the CPU, and Jose's mother carried the tablet that Lola Faye had given her. They waded through the brown water, step by step, holding their belongings above their heads like offerings to a god who wasn't listening. The rain didn't stop. It never stopped when you needed it to. The evacuation center was a public school gymnasium with a leaking roof and the smell of wet cement. 200 people were already there, sitting on plastic chairs and cardboard mats, their faces a mix of exhaustion and practiced patience. Jose found a dry corner near the stage and set up the computer on a wooden desk that had been saved from the flood. He plugged it into a generator that a local electrician had rigged from a car battery. The screen flickered to life. People gathered around, curious. A child asked, "Is that the fish computer?" Jose smiled. "Yes," he said, "it's the fish computer." He opened the app and pointed the webcam at a piece of dried fish that someone had brought in their pocket. The app spoke in Tagalog. Freshness score, 12%. Do not eat. Everyone laughed. The dried fish had been in someone's pocket for 3 days. But the laughter wasn't mocking. It was a laughter of people who had nothing but were still willing to share a moment. That night, something happened that no one expected. Kim sent a message to Jose. "I saw the flood on the news. Are you safe?" Jose replied, "We're in a gym. The computer is safe. That's what matters." Kim asked for the address of the evacuation center. Jose hesitated, then gave it. 2 hours later, a delivery truck arrived at the gym. The driver, a Filipino man who worked for an international courier company, waded through the flood carrying a box the size of a small refrigerator. Inside the box were 50 waterproof sleeping bags, 200 packs of instant noodles, 50 liters of bottled water, and a brand new laptop with a solar charger. There was a note attached. "From Kim and the people who used to hate you. We're sorry it took a flood to remind us you're human." Jose read the note 3 times. Then he handed it to Marco. Marco read it once and handed it back. Neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. The news of Kim's donation spread fast. Within 24 hours, donations poured in from around the world. A Korean gaming community raised $10,000. A Filipino workers group in Hong Kong raised $5,000. A Brazilian developer who had used Jose's AI model for cassava detection raised $3,000. The total reached $78,000 in 3 days. Jose didn't touch a single peso. He gave everything to the barangay captain, Mang Danny, who used the money to buy food, medicine, and cleaning supplies for 200 families. Mang Danny stood in front of the evacuees and announced, "This money came from people who don't know us, people who have never seen our faces or smelled our fish, but they gave anyway, because of Jose, because of what he built." The crowd clapped. Jose sat in the corner with his mother, both of them silent. His mother held his hand. Her fingers were rough and warm. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. The flood receded after 5 days. Jose returned to his house to find the walls stained brown with watermarks, the furniture ruined, and the smell of rot everywhere. But the computer was safe. The computer was always safe. He set it up on a new table that Marco had built from scrap wood and started working again, not on the fish app, which was already running smoothly, but on something new. He had been thinking about it for weeks, ever since Lola Faye had asked him a question that kept him awake at night. She had said, "The app tells me if the fish is fresh, but it doesn't tell me if the buyer is honest. Can you build something for that?" Jose didn't know if he could, but he was going to try. He was going to build an AI that could detect fraud in market transactions, a system that would alert vendors if a buyer tried to shortchange them or claim a lower price than agreed. It was a bigger problem than fish freshness. It was a problem about trust. And trust, Jose had learned, was the hardest thing to code. But life had other plans. 3 weeks after the flood, Jose received an email that made his hand shake. It was from the office of the United Nations Development Program. They had seen the viral videos, the record-breaking GitHub post, the donation drive. They wanted Jose to speak at a conference in New York, not about technology, about resilience, about what it meant to build something from nothing, about the power of dignity over hate. Jose read the email 7 times. Then he called Marco. Marco came over, read the email, and said, "You're going." Jose said, "I don't have a passport. I don't have a suit. I don't have plane ticket money." Marco smiled. "We'll figure out." They figured it out. A local politician heard about the invitation and expedited Jose's passport for free. A church group donated a second-hand blazer that was too big but looked respectable. A Filipino airline employee, a stranger would follow the whole story online, use her employee discount to buy Jose a round-trip ticket for a fraction of the price. Jose's mother sewed the blazer's sleeve shorter by hand, her eyes squinting in the dim light, her needle moving with the same precision she used to scale fish. On the day of his departure, the entire barangay came to see him off. Neighbors lined the street, holding handmade signs that said, "Proud of you and bring us home." Lola Faye was there, standing on her sore feet, holding her cracked tablet like a trophy. She shouted, "Tell them about the fish." Jose laughed and waved. Marco rode with him to the airport on his motorcycle, the wind loud in their ears. At the terminal, Marco pulled off his helmet and looked at Jose. His eyes were wet. "I'm not going to cry," Marco said. "I'm just allergic to airports." Jose hugged him. They stood there for a long time, 2 young men from Tondo, holding each other in a place that had always felt like it belonged to other people. Then Jose walked through the glass doors, his too big blazer hanging on his shoulders, his passport in his shaking hand, his heart full of everything he had lost and everything he had found. The conference in New York was held in a massive hall with chandeliers and flags from every country. Jose had never seen so many chandeliers. He sat in the front row, his hands sweating, his blazer buttoned wrong. A woman from the UN introduced him as a hero of the open source movement. Jose stood up and walked to the podium. The lights were bright. The room was full of people in expensive suits and designer glasses. He looked out at them and saw 1,000 faces he didn't know. He thought about his mother's hands. He thought about Marco's laugh. He thought about Lola Faye's tablet. Then he opened his mouth and spoke. He said, "I am not a hero. I am a boy from Tondo who learned to code because the internet was cheaper than therapists." The room laughed. He continued, "I built a fish app because my mother sells fish. I built it on a trash computer because that's all I had. I broke records not because I am smart, but because I was desperate. Desperation is a better teacher than genius." The room was silent now. He could hear someone coughing in the back. He talked for 20 minutes. He talked about the hate comments, the death threats, the knife under his pillow. He talked about Kim's apology, the flood, the sleeping bags. He talked about the record that really mattered to him. Not the Twitter record or the download record, but the record of how many vendors had stopped being cheated. He said, 7,423 vendors. That's how many people have told me they used the app and caught a dishonest buyer. 7,423. That number is my record. That number is why I wake up. When he finished, the room stood up, not just clapping, but standing. People were crying. A man in a gray suit was wiping his eyes with a handkerchief. A woman in a red dress was holding her hand over her heart. Jose stood at the podium, confused, unsure what to do. Then he smiled. Not a big smile, just a small one. The kind of smile you get when you finally understand that you belong somewhere. After the conference, Jose was supposed to stay in New York for 3 more days. He had been invited to meetings, dinners, and interviews, but he didn't go to any of them. He went straight to the airport and changed his flight to the earliest possible departure. He landed in Manila at 3 in the morning. took a bus to Tondo, and walked through the dark streets to his house. His mother was asleep on a thin mattress on the floor, the way she always slept, curled around a pillow like it was a child. Jose lay down beside her and closed his eyes. He didn't wake her. He just listened to her breathe. The sound was steady and warm. It was the sound of home. It was the sound of everything he had fought for. And in that moment, surrounded by the smell of fish and floodwater and faded dreams, Jose knew that the record he had broken was not the one the world would remember. The record the world would remember was simpler. It was a record of a boy who refused to let hate win. And that record, unlike all the others, would never be broken.